Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters. Big jazakallah khairan to VRIC for hosting us. It's very difficult, wallahi, to get platforms at Masjid. I don't know what's going on, because as far as I know, the Prophet ﷺ, when he established his Masjid, it wasn't just a place for praying 5 times a day. It was very much a place to discuss these very issues. There seems to be a notion that we need to celebrate religion and politics when Islam in itself encompasses everything, all parts of our lives. So Jazakallah khairan for this, and if there's anyone else out there after hearing this that feels that they need to also push this into their community, into their masajids, we will please get in touch with us so we can go to your community and inshallah do the same thing. But before I start, I want to ask a question. Please raise your hand. And a very simple question is, geographically, do you know where East Turkestan is? Okay, that's a fair bit. For those that didn't raise your hand, you'll be surprised to know that our country, East Turkestan, borders with Tibet, China. And why do I say these two countries? Because we don't consider ourselves to be part of China. We consider ourselves to be occupied. That's why we call Chinese occupied East Turkestan. We border with Mongolia, we border with Russia, we border with Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Afghanistan, India, Pakistan, Tajikistan. Now, raise your hand again if I named one of your countries just now and you didn't know that East Turkestan would border your country. Raise your hand. Subhanallah. So this just goes to show we don't even know, let alone what's going on. We don't even know where East Turkestan is, where this genocide is being committed. Now, this is a very quick crash course on what's going on. We're very, it's very difficult to get this sister's time to talk. It's very rare. We only have 5 former concentration camp detainees publicly speaking on the matter in the world. So to have her here, you can't put to words. We'll hear her experiences a little later on. But just a little bit of information. Currently, according to our statistics, we are about 35 million Uyghurs. According to Chinese statistics, they say that we are 11 to 12 million. Now, historically as well, any people of Turkish or Turkic descent here, whether you're Kyrgyz, Uzbek, all these our brothers in Central Asia, even Turkey, if you're Turk as well. Well, would you know that Islam was introduced to the Turks, the Uyghurs, in the early 10th century? The first Sultan, essentially, amongst the Turks to accept Islam was Sultan Sa'd Khan. Even Kashmiris, you can look this up. I only found this out the other day. I was at ICNA convention and a Kashmiri brother came up to me and goes, "Hey brother, did you," because he saw our stand, right? Uyghur Genocide. He goes, "Brother, did you know that we Kashmiris accepted Islam through an Uyghur called Bulbul Shah?" You can look this up. I didn't even know this. I just found out last week. So the Uyghurs have, Islamically speaking, was essentially at the top of Islamic history at one time, and now we're right at the bottom. You don't even hear about us. You've only heard about us because of these concentration camps. Now, you would have heard of the name, who's heard of the name Xinjiang before? Yeah? Which name do you hear more, Xinjiang or East Turkestan, generally speaking? Which one are you hearing more in the media? Xinjiang, right? Xinjiang is the equivalent to calling East Turkestan. It's as if we call Palestine Israel. How does the Palestinian feel, or as Muslims feel, when Palestine is called Israel? It's that, whatever you're feeling for that, that's how we feel when people are calling Xinjiang. Wallahi, even in the name itself, the word Xinjiang literally means new land, new frontier, new border. But China says, oh, we've occupied this land for 3, 4, 5,000 years. And look what they say. Where do Turks, modern day Turks, come from? We know in history, basic history, they come from Central Asia. They come from what they call geographically Turkistan. But in Chinese textbooks, in their public school system, they go, no, Turks came from what we know now as modern day Turkey, and they came towards Turkistan, where we are, and that we should all go back to Turkey. Their politics, their history, they spin it in their own way. I mean, our countries do it as well, but wallahi, they do it in a very embarrassing manner. So we need to learn this history. So I say, whenever I'm telling you some of this, I urge you to go back and then take a little bit of time to research some of the material, because this is simply just a very quick crash course. Our natural resources. Why does China occupy us? Yeah. A third of China's natural gas reserves, 40% of coal, highest concentration of fossil fuels. Like, China is China because of its Turkistan. It's able to stand on its legs. And yet when we get into the concentration camps, it's as if, what do they say? Uyghurs are peasants. We need to alleviate them out of poverty. And we'll get into how each of these concentration camp detainees, they're university rectors, they are presidents of universities, they are businessmen, footballers, lawyers, people from all walks of society who have university degrees. Produces 84% of China's cotton. 20% of the world's cotton comes from East Turkestan. So that's why we always urge people, if you're buying clothes, do not buy made in China. Because most likely it comes from slave labor, and we'll get into the slave labor part of it as well. And tomato production, hides, ketchup. A lot of their tomato production, their sources are sourced from our homeland is Turkistan. Please, again, a lot of these resources, write it down. Xinjiang police files. How do we know that these things exist? Well, we've had leaked files, government documents. If you go to xinjiangpolicefiles.org, okay, I didn't put the name, it's just the researcher, when these leaked documents got to him, he named it this, but it's crazy. My wife's name are in these files. So before I get into the rest of the presentation, my own mother-in-law, my own father-in-law, and my 2 brothers-in-law have been in a concentration camp since 2017. Now, I got married in 2021. What do you think that means? I've never met my mother-in-law. I've never met my father-in-law. I've never met these people. Inshallah, I do make dua. But their names are in these files. And they're simply in there for being Uyghur, for being practicing Muslims. And we'll get into the other reasons. It's not just your Muslim, you go, some of the craziest reasons you'll see why people are going to these camps. So there are images of these people, there are orders on how to capture these people, and there are orders on how to run the place. So please note this down, Xinjiang police files. If we were to go through each of these files, it would be like a 4-week course in and of itself. So these are from inside the camps, some of these images. So there are detention center security drills, PowerPoint presentations of how things should be run. And obviously you'll see later, satellite imagery as well. So a plethora of these things. So in China, literally, if you watch something like Black Mirror, or you've read the book 1984, this is Black Mirror or 1984 on steroids. Their technology, their AI, they can literally not just take pictures of you or record you, they can record how you're feeling from day to day. So if you're on Thursday feeling extra sad, then they'll go and visit you. Why are you feeling extra sad today? They just want to, that's how much detection is being recorded each and every day. We'll get into, I don't want to get into the experience of the concentration camps because I'll let Sister Zumrat Dawut do that in a moment. Yes. So these are some reasons, some very basic reasons for you to be landed into a camp. Having a beard. So whoever has a beard right now, mashallah, you're eligible for a concentration camp to be re-educated. Speaking your native tongue, refraining from smoking or drinking. So if you're using phrases like, Ya akhi, you know, smoking. I know even within ourselves, there is various different fatwa on what smoking is, right? If you would say, brother, simply, don't even say smoking is haram. You just say, brother, yeah, smoking is unhealthy for you. That's extreme. That sentence in and of itself. Forget saying it's haram and you give them, this is another matter. Wearing a shirt with Arabic writing. There is no more script of Arabic writing or Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim on Masjid, even in the cemeteries, on the tombstones and all this. Using WhatsApp. So a big thing, a lot of people ask me, bro, I don't see anything on the ground, what's happening? With Palestine, what do they have access to? Instagram, Facebook, Motaz, all these personalities able to document the horrific genocide. In China in general, and East Turkistan, there is no access to these apps, Facebook, YouTube. Well, what about VPN? Even in the United States, I'm sure many of us, especially Muslims, we use VPN. We don't even trust some of our governments. But using a VPN is seen as a form of terrorism. You can get, it's a second degree terrorism charge for using a VPN, going over the firewall, so to speak. I imagine, especially, I've been in the United States for about 3 years now. A lot of you guys, especially in the Asian community, big on IT, right? But how they find out about the VPN is because of this, and sister will explain, every few hundred meters, there is a checkpoint. And they'll go through your phone, and you have to put in a special app, and they can see how you're doing. There was a moment in time when Uyghurs were trying to be smart. They said, let's go back to the Nokia phones, the 5110s or the 3210s. That's illegal as well. Why are you using a predated phone? What are you trying to get away from? That in itself can make you a concentration camp as well. Traveling abroad, or having relatives abroad, having money being sent to you from abroad, or you being sent money. So, alhamdulillah, Jazakallah khair again, VRIC gave us the opportunity because we're trying to raise funds for a mosque. And we were tabling out there, and a brother goes to me, I'm not sure if he's here tonight, but he was like, I want to send money to the brothers there. I'm like, brother, I can't even send money to my relatives. What are you talking about? The best thing you could do is send to programs, especially we have Uyghurs in Turkey, to refugees that haven't made it to Turkey. That's the best you can do, but not even funds and aid and things, you can't get it in. That in and of itself is seen as a crime. I can't say, I'm Uyghur, I have relatives, there's no, if any charity claims this, then they're scamming you. This does not exist. Performing, again, any sort of Islamic ritual, forget salah, forget janazah and all these things. Actually, to simply say, assalamu alaikum, mentioning Allah, this is all forbidden. It's gotten to that stage. And therefore, sometimes, to make it really sink in to my brothers and sisters, and I know this is not really a good thing to do, and I mean absolutely no offense, as bad, wallahi, it is so bad what is happening in Palestine right now. But if that was happening to Uyghurs, please do not take me, don't misunderstand me when I say this. For us, that would be Jannah. Because we see our brothers at least performing some sort of janazah on them. We know the names, there are numbers coming out, this many people died, right? But if from the satellite imagery we can see in the concentration camps, there is crematoria next to the camps. So Allah knows how many people have died, how many people have become shaheed. Some people, if they are lucky, maybe 1 or 2 years later they'll find out, such and such person died. They don't even know where their family members are. So what did I say at the beginning? I haven't even met my mother-in-law, father-in-law, brothers-in-law. They're in the prisons for 7-8 years. Khalas, let's just say they are guilty of their crimes. And their crime is, the typical crime that they put on Uyghurs is thinking about committing terrorism. Meaning you're a practicing Muslim. My father-in-law, he owns a flower factory. 2 brothers-in-law, they are mechanics. My wife, she's a PhD. She has a sister in Turkey. She's also a PhD. They're not peasants. They don't need to be alleviated out of poverty. Brothers, we don't even know where they are. Like here, if someone commits a crime, your family member, they put into prison, you know where they are. You can check up on them. You can visit them from time to time, right? We don't know where they are. And there are other reasons that as well. I just want to stop there because I want to introduce Sister Zumrat Dawut. She was in the camps, and as I mentioned here, there's quite a few faces here. 5 of them here are actually concentration camp detainees. 4 of them are actually what they call either teachers. They were indoctrinating the Uyghurs inside the camps, teaching them Chinese, teaching them to forget Allah, to abandon Islam, and to accept the deen of communism and Xi Jinping as their Lord. That's why I say 5, and then 4 people who are actually teaching this. They've come out, they've left East Turkistan, and they're public about what they were forced to do in these camps. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Sister Zumrat Dawut, and she'll talk about a little bit about what she went through in the camps. And I'll be translating.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Peace be upon you. My name is Zumrat Dawut.
Ben Şarkı Türkistan'da Ürümçi'de doğulup Ürümçi'de yaşadım.
I was born in East Turkistan's Urumqi, city of Urumqi. I was born there and I was raised there.
Benim yoldaşım Pakistanlı, hem benim 3 farzandım var.
My husband is a Pakistani national and I have 3 children.
Bir babam var bir şeyde, kağa işkisi öyle kağa işki kızım.
My son is here today with us. You want to raise your hand? He just raised his hand very quickly. And I have 2 daughters back in Virginia.
Ben Xitay'dan cezaevlerinde 62 gün kaldım.
I was in China's concentration camp for 62 days.
Benim kutlup çıkışım onu yoldaşım Türkçülük olayına Xitay'daki Pakistan konsuluna köp katım arz kılıp ayağımın açkanda günah yok tutup getirdi de köp arz kılıp beni açtı.
My husband was the main reason I was able to get out. He went to the Pakistani consulate in China, so in Beijing, and he complained and he applied many times for them to take some action, and it was only through him. So I will just add one thing. I'm going to speak to she's very lucky. A lot of the people that have been able to escape, mainly because either their spouse or their children or someone overseas was able to sort of petition for their release. But majority of the people are stuck in these camps for years and years and years.
62 gün jarayonida bir kichik
in 62 days
20 necha ayolni bir kamarga solaydi.
We were in a small cell with about 20 women.
Hacatxonasi yo'q, hattoki ochiq ashkariyada bir odam hajat o'tasa qolgan 20 necha ayol uni ko'rib turadi. Shunchalik sistemchilik.
There is no actual sewer or toilet system. There is a place for you to do that, and it's open. Anytime you have to do that, it's public.
Kilingan ayollarning hammasi namoz o'qiganligi, hajga borganligi shaxsiy. Ashundoq tutib kilinganlar.
Most of the people in my cell were simply there because they either performed salah or they had gone to Hajj before.
Uydan Qur'on chiqqan, joyda namoz chiqqan degandek.
Or they had religious attire. For example, they had Quran Kareem, or they had sajjada, or they had something of religious worthiness in their home. They had some religious properties.
Telefonlarda ayet yoki shundoq Islomga oid bir narsa saqlaganlar.
Some of them had stored, for example, some Quranic ayat or something religious on their phones, or like an app, and this was another reason for going into the camp.
Meni saqchixonaga solashdagi maqsadi mening 3-chi farzandlik bo'lganligim. Ya'ni sizlarning islom dinida ko'p farzandlik bo'lish degan shunday qoida bormi, savob bo'ldi degandek ilm oldimmi deb.
The reason why she went into the camp when she got interrogated was that she had too many children. So a little bit of context, for Chinese people, at least back in the day, they've recently changed it. You only allowed have one child, but for what they call minorities, you can have 2 children, but she had 3 children. And so it was like, did Islam teach you to have this extra child? So she was sent into the camp because on record she had a 3rd child.
Ulan xalıgancha bizdan qan alatdi, kundu digidek doğru işkizatdi bizge.
Anytime they would come into the cell, they would take our blood, and we were given various pills and unknown pills every day.
Vaksini de ayrı bir qatdan birikimizge vaksini de bulgulatdi.
They would come to us and say, this is a vaccination. Every month we'd be given a shot.
Türme içtikilerim, emas türmünün sırtıdikilerim hoşunda vahimlik yaşadı. Çünkü telefonlarımızda mu Xitay hükümeti bizge unutmagan adlavatdi.
So while we were in the camps, even the people outside the camps could not live freely because there's a special app that tracks all our daily activity.
Türmüge sulanmagan sırtıkilerim hatta biz Haydi boyunca, İslami boyunca mesela Esselamu Aleyküm, İnşallah, Subhanallah ve ya ki Allah kandalı olsun bir İslami gap çıkıp kalsa şunu tutmayı sakçıkılıp tutmaktadır.
So, because you're tracked, so your microphone's on anything, so any Islamic terminology that you use, I'm sure you understood what he just said, Assalamu Alaikum, Inshallah, Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, you say any of this phrasing, it tracks you, within 3 minutes, you are visited by the police.
60 gün türmedeydi hayatımda tüz bilen posulup duymadı. Hatta ki bizge şu köktatlarının ki suyunu üzüplam aşkım suyu da tamak verdi. Aşıktayla olması dedi.
So we would be on very low calorie diets. We would be given the water or the soup of vegetables, and with that we would be given a sort of a bun, and we would live off this.
Türmenin içinde şu 60 yaş gelgen bir apaşına kozup toymayı diyabet kesili bakettim. Şunun yandan kılığalığım için ben türme sakçısından kat tayak yedim. Tayak yiyiş jarayonida bir Allah degenim üçün, yo Allah degenimge Allah'ını tam aldığımızda ekeldim, tekme tayak yedim.
So, for example, there was a moment where I'm in the cell with a 60-odd-year-old woman. I soon found out that she had diabetes. It was really starting to show, so I gave her a portion of my food to her. The guard saw this, and so he beat me. And when he beat me, like, what's the word? My reaction was to say Allah. And because I said Allah, they beat me more. And the guards, as they were beating me, they said, bring your Allah to us. Bring him here.
62 gün jarayonida yurtduşum izchil turda aşınaq yollarımda men bir ta'limlik bulup sizlarning oldingizda hozirgidek so'z qilganligidek o'tiribdim 62 gün jarayonida.
It's only because of my husband, out of the 60 days he was trying to get me released, that I'm able to sit here in front of you and tell you some of this.
Türmede yenip chiqqandan keyin yuqorida buyruq tushdi. 2 farzandlikdan ortiq bolalık olan ayollarni boğduruş operasyası qilamiz deb majburiy meni valiyat ko'rim deb bo'g'yapti.
So because then there was legislation or law saying that I had an extra child, anyone that had more than 2 children, they were forced to tie, what's the medical term? Not yet, we'll sterilize them, but there's like for tying their fallopian tubes. Tie their fallopian tubes so they no longer have any children. So I actually got, when I got to the United States, I had a health check just so that I could prove this part of my story. I got a medical record saying that this is what happened to me.
2017 yıldan keyin şu bizning mahalladagi qabristonliklarning bizga lozim hozir ishchilikni akab bo'lmasa biz yana tuzlab ishlatamiz deb butun qabristonliklarimizni buzib cho'g'yapti.
So in 2017 there was another piece of legislation saying that we need the cemeteries. We need everyone to come and exhume their loved ones because we're going to use this piece of land.
Mana bu şu Xitay saqçılarının bizning qabristonlarimizni buzib o'tgan ko'rish.
So these are some images of the Chinese government destroying our cemeteries. This is my cemetery.
Bu qayerdan qizib chiqarayotgan mening opamning jasadi.
So we were exhuming my mother. This is the image of this.
Hatta 37 kunluk tugab ketgan do'stimni achikdanlar nega bir kun basanlar kun bitanlar yabimiz tashlasanlar bo'ldi degandek bizga o'rin ko'rsatmadi boshqa yak apirib ko'mishgan. Biz hammamiz uyimizda 42 kun jasad saqladik. 40 biz o o'rin bergichilik o'zimizdan saqlanadi deb har birimizning uyida ya dadamizning ya opamizning inimizning fuqarorimizning hammamizning jasadi bor.
So I had a friend who had died 37 days. For 37 days, we even had to exhume her body. The government didn't tell us where to take the remains. They didn't give us a spot, and so many of us, the people of this particular cemetery, we had to keep the remains of our loved ones in our own homes for 42 days.
Bütün çıkan cesetlerini göz altına göz tutturup sundurup şu halatga kelib tutqizib qo'ydi.
So when they exhumed the bodies, they gave us a bag and in this manner.
Masjidlarimizni buzib chiqardi, hatto to'g'ib qilgan fermalar qilib Xitoylarga ularni ijaraga berdi.
So the government doesn't just destroy our mosques. They also turn and convert some of them into, how do I say it, for taking care of animals, for chicken coops and all this.
Kundan keyin mana bu o'rinda berdi bizga. Shu jasadlarni salg'angan, o'shda kichik o'rin.
So after the 42 days, they told us to put our family members into these cube areas here, and that's where we could put the remains of our loved ones.
Bütün cesetler bayırda işte küçük oğlum ben. Bu yerde hazır ben küçük ballarını görüp şuradan koşuldum. İçimde bir jık yamadıdı. Biz ballarımlarını ilim ügütüş için, din ügütüş için nesiller günde ekeytipsizler. Biz ballarımızın ügütüp koygan dinlerimizde bir rastır hesap unutup dururken, kalısı birden bir to'xtab dururken, turmuzda dururken devran alat getip kalıp. Çünkü ballarımı mektepte so'rab, apam namaz oqamdı, dadam namaz oqamdı, yoki sizlarni o'yli Qur'on bormi deb kichik bolalardan so'rab, ashularning javobini ilib, ota-onasini jazolaydigan ishlardir.
So I look at all the children here, especially in the West. I look at your children, and you guys are bringing your kids to the mosque every day, teaching them Islam, teaching them Quran. But we, the Islam that we had taught our children, we would hope that they would forget it. Like we were trying to do the opposite, telling them, like we would pray that they forget whatever they learned, because it's gotten to a stage where our children, to put it bluntly, without knowing, because they're children, right? They essentially become snitches. Because when they go to school, the teacher asks them, what did you do over the weekend? What does your parents talk to you about? Do your parents pray? And then a child doesn't know. And so they say, oh, my mom, my dad taught me Qul Huwallahu Ahad. You know, oh, my father prays. We have a sajada at home. And because of the children's testimony, then the parents are then taken off to the concentration camps.
Nurgun küçük ballarının aldaş bilen ataları türmeli laylarına sunulur gitti.
So, because of this, because of the testimony of the children, a lot of parents have been sent to the so-called re-education or vocational schools.
Uyghur kızlarını Xitayga yatıp buluşqa mecburladı. Hatta ki ailesi boyunca Xitayga tekken Uyghur kızlarının ailesi boyunca ularını yaxshi siyosatdan mahrum qilib, Xitoyga tegmagan oilalarni jazolashni ilib bordi.
So there is a situation where Uyghur women are forced, sort of like given as a ghanima to Chinese atheist men, especially the ones that work in the government. And for these sorts of people, generally speaking, the policies against them would be a little softer. It means that they would assimilate further. But for the ones that rejected this, then they themselves would be considered extreme, because then the government would question, why are you rejecting a marriage proposal from this Chinese man? Is it because he's atheist? It's not allowed in your religion? And obviously they know the fiqh behind this, but they still go and ask that, and if you reject this, then you are taken to a concentration camp.
Xitaylarni qo'shmoqliqdan siyosatida Xitaylarni har bir Uyg'urga mayli kichik bo'lsin, cho'ng bo'lsin, hammasiga birdan Xitoyni atalmish tuqqan qilib birisiga sürücüklab, ailede Uyg'urlarning ailesida bir oyda 15 kun yotadiganlikni o'rlashtirdi.
So there is a policy in China called pairing families. So an Uyghur family would have to get paired to a Chinese family, and they have to be living with these people. The Uyghurs have to host these Chinese in their homes for half a month, for at least 15 days of the month. They live together, they sleep in the same quarters, they eat together, they study together. And this is to assimilate the Uyghurs into Chinese society. I'll just add something. So, as we live in the West, this is my own words now. So, most of you, either on green card or you're American or you're American citizens, yes? So even Western countries have a level of assimilation, right? But they don't assimilate us to the level where they say, forsake your religion, forsake your culture, forsake your values. But in China, you speaking or wanting to live like an Uyghur, or wanting to be Muslim, or wanting to be Christian as well. We've heard of it, we'll get into that later perhaps. That's seen as extreme, and you not assimilating into China enough. So we're not against assimilation, but it's this extreme form of assimilation that they're trying to force upon us.
Bular 15 gün bizimle birlikte işçi kadar bizim uyup konudu.
So as I mentioned before, they are living with us, essentially entertaining themselves with us, partying with us for 15 days of the week, 15 days of the month.
Mana bu mening 11 yoshga kirgan qizim shu chaq 10 yoshga kirgan. Buningga tuqqan qilgani mana 19 yoshlik.
So at the time, the system is that each person, so for example, they have 5 people in their family. So she's a mother, she would have to be paired with a Chinese man. And the father would have to be paired with a Chinese woman. In this picture, her 11-year-old daughter is paired with a 19-year-old Chinese man. And they are supposed to what? What did I say before? Eat together, live together, astaghfirullah, sleep together. That's supposed to be the system.
Ularga haraqlarni elib keldi uyga. Hattoki 15 kun ichida biz bilan nima qilgan, nimani bilgan, nimani ishgan, hammani tizimlab hukumatga qurdi. Agar men haraqlarni ichsam, deb ashta zo'laydi.
So any time that they're partying or being together, the Chinese, they bring over alcohol, they bring over food, and it's not necessarily halal, there's pork. And these people, they're officials, so they write down, they document what happens in these gatherings. Do these people oblige? Are they free, or are they taken aback? They record everything. The interactions are all recorded.
Bu mening 3-chi farzandimga to'lagan jarimanim. Ya'ni 18,900 kun Xitoy puli. Men daha az to'ldim. Nurg'un oilalar 3-chi, 4-chi farzandlariga to'lagan pullarining jiqlig'idan uyini, mashinasini, nurg'un narsani sotib, bolalarning jarimani to'laganlar.
So this is an actual fine, right? A penalty for it's 18,400 Chinese yuan, which is the equivalent of about $3,000, which is still a lot of money in Chinese occupied Turkistan. But this is nothing. I know people, she's saying, I know people that have paid a lot more where they couldn't afford, and their house, their cars were taken away from them to pay the fine for the 3rd or 4th child that they were having.
Ben Pakistan'a barmaya desem bana bir aylık ruhsat vergen. Benim fakat vatanda turgudek özümden duyuldu, turgudek alıp kalmadı. Yeni birden bir azayimde evde doğu, yeni birden babamın bu şurada işgalından içindemay. Ahir yolu şu yoluruşka başladım. Bu demek Pakistan'ın yesini tutsam oturayım ben. Beni epkettip yoluruşka başladım. Belki testi pasportum neyle Pakistan'a geldim.
So eventually, even after I got out of the camp, because of all these policies, I could not live under. So my family and I, we decided to go to Pakistan. Even if I were to live in some village in Pakistan, it would be much better than living here.
Ben bir toy kılgan ayağı oturup Pakistan'a bir işim fakat bir aylık ruhsat verdi. Bir aygacha kep bulursan, anadaki Pakistan'daki bütün Uygurların isimlerini yazıp bizge tapşırırsa deb vaziyet verdi.
So even though I was married to a Pakistani national, I had children with a Pakistani national, I was only given 1 month permission to be able to go and come back from Pakistan. Those were the restrictions put on me if I were to be given a passport. Those were the conditions put on me.
2016 yılı Amerika'ya algan kanunluk vizam bağlanmak için Pakistan'daki vaxtımdan tatıklap Xitay hükümeti beni tehdit silishga başladı. Qaytib geldi. Şunun bilan vaqt to'shib ketgan Pakistan'da tursam o'zimni bir xil ishonchlik his qilaman. Pakistan'da ishkinchi Jungo deb o'yladim. Manga qanday bo'lar degan bizga Pakistan'da bizning adamlarimiz bor. Sinib birdan tutib kelaydi degandek. Men qo'rqib shuning bilan bolalarim bilan Amerikaning Virginia shtatiga ko'chib keldim.
So another condition of the going to Pakistan was that I had to report with every interaction that I had with any Uyghurs. That was another condition. And during the time, as soon as I landed in Pakistan, the Chinese were always harassing me, telling me to report on this and telling me to come back and always threatening me, saying, if you do anything, if you say anything, we have people in Pakistan, we could grab you anytime and send you back forcefully. So I never really felt safe in Pakistan. Some have labeled Pakistan as the second China. No offense to any Pakistan, it's just government stuff. But in 2016, I had a US visa, like a tourist visa in my passport. And from Pakistan, we just got my whole family and we flew over to Virginia permanently.
Amerika'ya kilip guvalık verişten korktum. Çünkü Xitay'nın bir işi var, aile boyunca cezalaydıgan. Mesela ben günah kılsam benim dadam, yoki akam, yoki acam aile boyunca cezalaydı. Herkes ben günah kılsam ben beni ketmeydi. Ben esirgendim guvalık verişten. Yo'ldoshim bana bu inqilab bo'lmaydi, bu millatimni qutqizadigan ish cho'qim o'rnidan turishi kerak deb bana madad berib, bana shu Amerikada Uyg'urlar haqida guvohlik berishga undadi.
So as soon as I got to the United States, I couldn't, I was in a state where I couldn't actually talk about my experiences. I was very scared because in China the system is, and I'm sure you've heard this before with other regimes out there, that it doesn't end with you. You're not just a criminal. If you start talking or you start bashing the government, they will attack your family, your mother, your father, your siblings, and then send them to prison and torture them and interrogate them. So I kept quiet for a long time because essentially the government had my family hostage, but it was my husband that gave me the strength, the encouragement to speak up about this, saying that, essentially pushing me to speak up about it and showing how important it was.
Şundan başka her qaysi çoğ axbarat vasıtalarında vatanimdeki bulatgan zulümni anlatışga başladım.
So it got to a point where I started speaking to mainstream news media outlets, big platforms, and talking about what happened with me and what happened to my people.
Birleşken Devletler Teşkilatı'ndaki en çok guvalığını berdiğim vaxtıda üyemdekilerden kılatqa işini toxtat, arkadaşımız toxtat degandek akıllarımın tehditini tapşırıp aldım. Ve yeni toxtamay 2019 ayının 27. günüsü Birleşken Devletler Teşkilatı'da çok bir guvalıqdan öttüm. 10. ayının 12. günüsü başlarında dadamın sağ çıkandı öldürülgen haberine tapşırıp aldım.
So in 2019, September 27, I gave my testimony at the United Nations. And about 2 weeks later, through my Chinese neighbor, I got news that my father had become Shahid on October 12th. Because simply for talking about my experiences at the United Nations.
Dadam 5 vakit namaz öteydiğen, her çıkıp gelgen.
My father, someone that prayed 5 times a day, he had performed Hajj. This is very typical. Like this is for a lot of you, this is news, but this is this is our normal. That is so normal for us. If it's like someone got taken away from prison for praying 5 times a day, it's just like okay. So that's how China got their revenge against me. So I did not stop there. Till now, I've been giving testimony wherever I can.
Müslüman kıyındaşlarımızın ödündüğünün, Uyghur halkının unutmanla, biz pek aciz.
I pray my plea to the Muslim community that do not forget about us. We are very, very weak.
Bizde mındak bir gap var. Hoşnan aç kalgan vaxtida senin heyecan kabul olmaydı deydigan. Müslümanның qayaşı biz sizler bilen Allah'ımız bir, dinimiz bir, imanımız bir, peygamberimiz bir. Bizni her şeyde unutmamalı.
So there is a saying that if your neighbor is hungry, then your Hajj would not be accepted. Remember that our Lord is one, our Prophet is one, our religion is one, is of the same. So please show that solidarity. Don't forget about us.
Manglanan bugün kuvalligimni anlap berganlardan hoş oldum. Bolsam şu Xitayga taqabul qilgan nurg'un islamiy qilinadigan ishlar bor. Masalan, Xitoy ma'lumotlarini boykot qilish degandek, shunday ishlarga hozir majburiy emgakda kelayotgan nurg'un markalar narsalar bor. Pandur qiyomi, hatto Xitoydan kelayotgan paxta kiyimlar, ular hammasi lagerdan yetayotganlarning emgakidan kelayotgan narsalar, shu narsalarni boykot qilishga yordam qiladi.
So I urge you to, just like with any other movement out there, if you want to do something, an action would be to, as much as you can, boycott made in China, boycott apparel, ketchup, seafood, anything that you feel that you can do that's tainted in slave labor, because again, now it's my words. It's not just the Uyghurs in the camps, and lots of people have died. Now it's gotten to a stage where they've taken the ones that have graduated from the camps and put them into forced labor camps. So they work in these factories. They cannot leave. They have their own dorms there. They make money, right? But the money that they make just goes back into, they have to pay their own rent for the dorms. They have to pay for the food. They cannot leave those places, the forced labor camp, and they just bring in more people into the initial concentration camp. And it's just a vicious cycle.
To'g'ri, biz vatanda Xitoyning besimi bilan dinni to'liq o'rganmadik, ham tushunmadik, ham o'rganish, namoz o'qish fursatlarimiz bo'lmadi besim bilan.
So, because of China's oppression, because of the pressure, we have not been able to learn the deen properly. We don't know it fully.
Biz hozir Amerika Virginia shtatida o'z oldimizga bir Uyg'ur masjidi qurilish oldida turibmiz. Har qaysi musulmonlarning bizning masjidimizga, qurilish oldidagi masjidimizga iqtisodiy jihatdan yordam berishlarini umid qilamiz.
That's why we urge everyone, another thing that because the main community of Uyghurs is in Virginia, we are on the verge of establishing a mosque. We're halfway there. Currently, we are renting a place, but because of the building's restrictions, they are not allowing us certain activities. For example, Jummah, we have to play outside and all these things. So we've raised about half the money. So if this is also another way you can help us establish ourselves in the United States. And I was earlier, these are my words now, just after the Salah, during the khutbah, right after the khutbah, I made an announcement that around at least 16,000 that we know of have been completely destroyed, demolished, or converted into, farms for animals, or turned into bars. Some have been turned into clubs. Some have been, and you can go to YouTube and find this, right? Some have been turned into dance halls, literally. You can still see the mimbar in some of them dancing around. So this would send a message to the Chinese. You could destroy thousands there, but we're going to build one symbolic one for Uyghurs, just to send a message to China. For time-wise, I think we can get to Q&A, right, brother? Salim, I don't know where he is, but we'll do Q&A. Yeah. Just raise your hand. I think the mic will be taken around.
Assalamu alaikum. This might be a dumb question. There's other Uyghur Muslims or non-Muslims area in China. Can the Uyghurs move there or anything?
Yeah, Uyghurs used to be able to go there, especially even I was in East Turkistan around 10 years ago. By and large, you were able to essentially practice Islam, but it got to a stage where they put the foot down. Belt and Road Initiative, Xi Jinping really wanted to take control of the area in 2017. We've always had oppression, right? It comes, there are times every 10 years or so. For example, in 1990, we had a Baran massacre, and that was simply because the Uyghurs revolted because China had finally implemented that child policy that I was talking about. And so there was a massive massacre, Baran massacre, look that up, B-A-R-E-N. Then in 1997, Ulja massacre, Uyghurs in the north, again, protested, no weapons, no terrorism, simply because some women were gathering together to learn the deen, and so they were taken away and executed. And so the brothers got to the streets and protested. And then February 5th, very cold, like Siberian style weather. 2009, Urumqi massacre. 2017, the concentration camps for the past 7 years now. And so it's always been there. With the Hui areas, the Huis you call them Huis, but they're Chinese. They are Hui because they've accepted Islam, they are our brothers in faith. But because one is Turkistan, we consider it not Chinese land. But in China, see this flag? This is our flag. We cannot raise this flag. Like saying East Turkistan, you are a separatist, you are extremist. And I always say, we don't want to be separate from China. We are separate from China, each and every way. But just politically, we are not recognized as a separate state or separate entity aside from China. So this is the main reason why Uyghurs are specifically targeted. Whereas the Huis now, very recently, a lot of the images, because there's no social media in East Turkestan, there is a little bit more freedom in Hui areas, so they're able to post a lot of the images of the mosques you see demolished are actually from Hui areas and not necessarily from East Turkestan. But they don't necessarily go to camps, and they don't go through what we go through. Yes, brother.
So it's very sobering to hear all the stories, and may Allah reward you for bearing it, your patience, inshallah. And it's very shameful for us as Ummah for not being able to do anything because of the status and the state we are, not only Uyghurs but also all over the world. So my question is that is China in general, it's not seen very aggressive religiously or even politically on the international scene, right? Just like other nations are very aggressive against Islam, against Muslim, but Chinese in general, they are not seen like that. Even internationally, they're not very aggressive in their policies. So my question is that this treatment of Uyghurs, is it common to every Muslim in China, because there are other Muslims, Chinese Muslims, like you said, they are also oppressed? Or it seems like this is only specific to the Uyghur community, and then maybe it's a reaction, government reaction, because of the independence or separatist movement in that territory. So they want to keep control, of the assets that they have, and economically they want to keep control, right? So do you see any in future, like, some kind of something that can be accommodated where, like, the separatism may be subdued a little bit, so that, there is some stability and the community, can at least live freely?
Yeah, by and large within East Turkestan, there are literally the separatist movement is like 0.000. There is no separatist movement within East Turkestan or current Chinese borders. I think I mentioned the question with the Huis just a moment ago. The Huis are generally a bit more free, but they are also having their religiously wise. They are also being clamped down, but not necessarily sent to concentration camps. But with the idea that if we just stop trying to be separatists, then China would treat us good. Now remember, in this land, 9/11 happened, and other attacks happened, right? And it was attributed to Muslims. But I did not see fighters from America, Australia, Europe went into Syria and did things, right? But I did not see any Western government lock up 10, 20% of their Muslim populations. I did not see this. Not everyone was blamed. Even if, let's just say we go with that logic, yalla, go catch them. These terrorists, these 0.00001, yalla, go get them. People, wallahi, just like in every community in any country, let's be honest, I think they did a statistic where the percentage of Muslims that actually practice Islam, 15%, 20%, something like this. We have that same issue. There are people being sent into these camps. Let's just be honest, they don't even know, some people, right? They don't even know Al-Fatiha. If you told them to pray, because of the environment, they literally don't know how to do salah. They don't know. And these people are taken into the camps. And if you ask them, they literally don't know East Turkestan, they've never seen this flag in their life. They literally do not know. It's only when Uyghurs leave the country that they, East Turkestan, we used to have a country in 1933, 1944. We were the first ones, the first Turkic group to accept Islam. We literally don't know. It's only when we leave, has anyone seen the Truman Show? It's almost like that. We're like living, it's literally, China, people don't understand it, like it's a very rich North Korea. You've seen the documentaries on North Korea. Very difficult to get in, very difficult. Like East Turkestan is like North Korea, just with a little bit more money. And it looks nicer, a little bit. And they're very good in their propaganda. That's the only difference.
Next question, just to let you know, sisters, inshallah, we will come to you. We're just going to take a few more questions from the brothers, and then we're going to send it to the sisters, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah khair to both of you. Jazakallah khair for the sister for sharing such difficult details of her experience. I wanted to ask you to touch upon kind of one of the graphic aspects of the oppression that's happening there. One of the Uyghur brothers before Salah was telling me about the organ harvesting, and I wanted for everybody to kind of, I saw it as I pointed the slide, but I wanted people to understand that. If you could touch upon what exactly is happening in that regard, and some of the details related to that.
Yeah, there's something, please Google this when you get home. Halal organ harvesting. Please look that up. And halal organ harvesting is, so halal organ harvesting is where it's very sick. Our brothers and sisters in the Gulf, because they have very little access to organs, the Chinese offer these organs of Uyghurs because, as Sister mentioned, each time an Uyghur goes into the camp, their blood, their retina, they have a full health check, right? right? And it's literally, you can literally order a heart, a lung, and people are literally executed on demand. And if the heart or it doesn't function properly or doesn't work or doesn't suit with the blood, literally they'll get you a new one. It's the only country in the world where you have organs on tap, organs for order. So halal organ harvesting. We have a Uyghur brother, he's been giving testimony on this. You can look this up. Enver Tohti, E-N-V-E-R, Tohti, T-O-H-T-I. And he has testified that he's literally seen a person being executed. He gets purposely hit so the shot doesn't kill him immediately. And then once he's hit in the shoulder or the person's sort of half gone, he quickly, while the person's still alive, extracts the organs fresh. And then here, I travel the world talking about this, right? No, I'm not sure if you've seen this, but you can look this up. This is an airport in Kashgar. Kashgar used to be the old capital city of East Turkistan. It borders with Afghanistan. And it's not a very big city these days. But there is so many organs coming out of the region that they had to make it an express lane for organs. Have you, I mean, a lot of you guys are foreigners, you traveled, have you ever seen an express lane for organs? And it's literally labeled for organ express lanes in airports. And this is all over, not just in Turkistan, but in China as well. How many organs are being extracted in this manner that they need this special lane? I mean, it's such a normal, everyday thing. So go home, halal organ harvesting. And then did we not say Islam is banned? In hospitals in China, in the hospitals, to cater for the Muslims that are coming from the Gulf, these rich Muslims from the Gulf, in the hospitals, you will not find this anywhere else, especially in China where these organs are being harvested. Actually, they've got halal canteens in the hospitals. You can see the videos. And they have masajids in the hospitals. But it's not for the general public, it's to cater for these people. So when they go there, they have their operation. Dhuhr, Allah Akbar, they pray. Like it's so sick. Halal organ hub, please Google this tonight. All the documents, all the evidence, all the resources are all there.
So has anyone ever tried to escape by themselves? Like no help from relatives to escape the camp?
I have no record of this. I personally don't know. There have been some people that have escaped where they tried to escape to Central Asian countries. And what happens? These countries themselves who are still communistic. I don't mean no offense to people from these areas, but the governments are very still communist and Soviet in their ways, and they sell back the Uyghurs. And a lot of our Gulf countries do the same. They extradite Uyghurs on China's command. There was a big migration or escape of Uyghurs to Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia. A lot of them are still stuck in Thailand. Type in Uyghur prisoners in Thailand, right? So a lot of them have been extradited back to East Turkistan. If they're able to make it to Malaysia or Indonesia, generally speaking, they go to the Turkish consulate, they'll get their papers, they go to Turkey. These are lucky ones, but if you're stuck in Thailand, then may Allah be with you. So we have a lot of brothers in Thailand, some in Kashmir even, and we have one brother, Idris Hassan, in Morocco. It is so sad. A lot of our Muslim countries are not able to stand up. Yeah. I love Islam. I don't think
Jazakallah khairan for letting us know. I used to hear a lot of stories, here and there, but now add detail today, inshallah. Keep spread the awareness, inshallah. At least we can dua. When you spoke to the United Nations, I know injustice everywhere, but what did they do? If there's anything they approached you, they investigate anything about it?
So generally speaking, Western countries, it's going to sound very strange. Western countries support Uyghurs. The United States recognizes Uyghurs, what China is doing to the Uyghurs as genocide officially. They have legislation to stop forced labor goods coming in. They do all these things. Australia, Europe, they're all on board. So what happens is these Western countries who have let the Palestinians down, they draft up resolutions for Uyghurs to essentially sanction or to try and do an investigation and all these things. But guess who vetoes or guess who blocks or who is not supportive of these resolutions when it comes to the nitty-gritty? Muslim majority countries. So it's going to sound very strange now. The Western countries put together this lovely, like for Uyghur's sake, right? This awesome resolution, something to do against China, and then when it gets voted, you see Saudi, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, all the Indonesia, all these countries. We had one Muslim, was it Somalia, right? Oh, Somalia was the only Muslim majority country that supported us. And I'm thinking, I don't want to make a joke, but their flag also has like a blue and then star. I don't know. But subhanAllah, they're the only country that supported us. So it's obviously these countries the Western countries don't support for the sake of Allah, but Muslim countries should be supporting for the sake of Allah. You would think. But yeah, politics and it's not working. Oh yeah. Next question.
Still, we can't hear.
Oh, did I? Oh, I'll repeat the question.
No, it's okay.
Shall I? It was good? Okay.
My question is for the sister. Since she's been living in America, has she felt safe? Does she feel, like I know she's like speaking about what's happening right now. Does she still feel scared? We just thank her so much for coming and speaking.
Birinchi bo'lib sizga pek rahmat aytamiz. Siz Amerikada yashayotgan yaqin o'zingizni bexatar his qilamsiz, ya'ni qo'rqamsiz?
Albatta qo'rqman. Men ham shu quvonib bergan vaqtlarimda nurg'un qatam Xitoyga kelib ko'chdi, maxfiy rasmga tortdi. Bu yerda qurolli yaroqlarni xotirjam elib setib qilib bo'ldi ekan. Men bilmayman qachon meni etitidu, men shu takidikida yashayman. Xitoyning hatto tashqi ishlar ministrligining Wang Yi degan Xitoyning qo'liga rasmni avilib turib meni bir necha qatim tahdid soldi, Xitoy bevosita. Mening ushoq qo'llarim bor, men qo'rqaman albatta.
Yes, each time I give testimony, I feel threatened. The foreign ministry, Wang Yi, has put up a picture of me, essentially threatening my kids. I always worry about what's going to happen to me and my family each time I do this work. Even before, when we were about to start, the brothers were asking me, do you guys want to go live? Do you guys want to, project this? And we're like, yeah. I mean, we're quite public about what we do. But do you guys know when you see like Uyghur Genocide stuff, you see like a mask, and then there's like people wearing masks. It's quite symbolic. That mask protesting only came about, one, because of COVID, and two, once COVID ended, Uyghurs, right, when you go to protest, Uyghurs are not safe or don't feel safe in protesting because we know that there are spies amongst us, and our family that night, they will call us. It's not necessarily the Chinese calling you, hey, stop this. No, they'll make your family members back home call you and say, you were wearing this, you were here that day, you said this. And so that's why you see very few personalities, or you see very few. I'm sure there are more concentration camp detainees that have left, but only literally a handful are coming out in public and speaking because the risk is so high.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Sister, thank you so much for your testimony. It was very moving and chilling and a huge eye-opener for me. And may Allah bless you and your family with Firdaus. I feel like I'm looking at a woman from Firdaus. And I just wanted to know, how did you mentally survive what you've been through? How were you able to keep good expectations of Allah? did you have any special laws you would make, any protective surahs that you really counted on?
So is this the time during inside the camp you were saying how she would, yeah. Birinci olarak Allah razı olsun sizga qolib berganingizga. Deydi, siz o'zingiz u kampning ichida qanday psixologiyatdan tayandingiz, Allohni qanday masalan umidsizlanmay qilgan duolaringiz bormi? Shu hayot qilish uchun psixologiyatdan, ro'yi jihatdan qanday o'zingizni
bizga bergan duolari bizni hech qanday narsani o'ylaganimni qo'ymaydi. Biz bir narsani uyamda bolam bormi, dadam bormi, yo'ldoshim bormi, hech qanday bir takabbur qilish kallanimni ishlatkizmaydi. Xuddi biz bir ichimizdan hamma narsani chiqarib quruq bir haykaldeklar. Turdik, o'tirdik. Men rostini aytsam, unchalik xiyollarni kallamga kirmadi.
So, in a blunt answer, no. And the only reason is the pills that they were giving us and the injections that we were given, we were put into a zombie-like state. So we didn't think about our family, we didn't think about, we didn't have our own notion of ourselves. We couldn't do any tafakkur, we couldn't think about these things that are normal human. We weren't just a prisoner and we're in a cage. We were zombies. We had no feelings. We were like a statue.
Right here. I just had a question. I know there's a lot of anti-Chinese sentiment in the U.S. and I know you talked about going to the United Nations. Have you spoken with U.S. lawmakers? I imagine you have. And has it gained any traction with regard to any kind of sanctions legislation or just even resolutions of support for Uyghurs in the federal U.S. legislative system?
Yeah, legislation-wise, on paper, the bills that have passed, the Uyghur Human Rights Policy Act, we've got the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act, we have the recognition of the Uyghur Genocide. The US is we have no issue with the US government. I mean, they've done what they could do. I mean, the only other thing I can't mention that I would like to be done, but I won't mention it here. But it has to be a world thing. Everyone needs to be, it sounds very strange after October 7. But everyone needs to sort of follow in the footsteps of the US, if that makes sense. This would make a lot more sense before October 7 for some reason. But politically wise, the US has done everything right for Uyghurs. But now, if we get into another can of beans, now it's like, okay, we've seen the horrors of Palestine, yes, quite clearly, genocide, you don't need any special experts. The US doesn't recognize that as genocide. With Uyghurs, we have leaked files. We don't have the same amount of evidence as Palestine has. So all of these things are political. We hope that. So what's the issue and what's happening? Who's the biggest supporter of Palestine right now in the world as a country, as a government? China, right? But look at how, again, I'm going to get into too much politics, but we have 50-odd Muslim nations. We could protect our own technically. So the typical message, I'm sure that you have shuyukh that say unity and we need to go back to Quran and Sunnah. I echo this. I mean, politics, we would be here all night if we were to get into that conundrum. Yes.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
So it's a very tragic thing and it's affected us. And we are all praying for your victory and liberation. So my question is, how have you organized the US, all of your group? Is there a central leadership or some leader who is representing the world about your problems? Number one. Number two, have you presented your case to the government of Pakistan, government of Turkey? Because they are directly related to your nearest. Have them raised the question from their side? Number three, have you approached to as you have approached to the United Nations, have you approached to the what we call OIC, Organization of Islamic Countries. At least in the group, it should be raised all over. If they don't take action, at least spread the word what is happening. And that is the beginning of the thing. So what your plan is in this regard? What you have done so far and what are you thinking in that line to establish yourself?
Yes, well, we have various Uyghur organizations and other, for example, the current organization, I do this full time. So I work, you may have heard of Justice for All. Justice for All deals with various campaigns. You can go to justiceforall.org. And then I'm the team lead for the Save Uyghur campaign. And we have other Uyghur organizations that have done exactly what you just said. Turkey especially, Pakistan. I'm sure there's a very popular interview done with Imran Khan. And he was like, I simply don't know. I mean, what did I just say? Pakistan borders with East Turkistan, and you don't know that there's a genocide. And then the Western governments is like giving it to say something, but again, politics. Pakistan is currently really in debt. Turkey is really in debt to China. Money is involved. Trade deals are involved. A lot of these countries, there's something called the debt trap diplomacy, where countries like Sri Lanka, and other second world, third world countries in South America, Africa, are having to essentially give off their land or sell off ports for 99-year leases just to pay off these massive debts. And so these countries really can't say much. Oh, I see, I heard. Again, I don't want to get into too much politics because I don't want to ruffle any feathers. If we consider them representatives of Islam after all these various issues that haven't been dealt with. So all of these actions that you've called for have been done and are continuing to be done by various Uyghur organizations and human rights organizations as well.
So shall I take
wrap it up?
Salah is at 10:15. So inshallah, if I can request after Salah in the lobby,
yes.
If any brothers or sisters they may have questions, they can speak to more, get more information from us.
Yeah.
Inshallah, table is already set up in the rotunda. So inshallah we'll wrap up the program.
Yeah. If you just quickly, I just got a final screen. It's just my email. I don't know if that can be sort of shown. If you want to provide us a platform, if you want to support our work, go to Justice for All. If you want to volunteer, justiceforall.org. Find out the reports. Even, for example, in Palestine, we've submitted 15 ICC submissions. And that's why, because the work that we do is not just Uyghurs, like I'm team lead, but we do work on the Rohingya, Kashmir, India, save India from fascism. So reach me on social media, and then please, our main point is provide us a platform. And as I mentioned, please, any questions, we've got tea up there, and then, please support our Masjid. Please support our Masjid. And last words from Sister Zumrat.
Ben doğruldum, ki benim milletim, Uyghur milleti doğruldum. Köprek düşüne, yeni kandak bir alametler var, kandak işler yüz berip dep qiziquvchilar bolsa, Google'dan Uyghur desanlarni buldum. Ki mening guvohligimni texmi inchiklab anglamoqchi bo'lsanglar, Google'dan Zumrat Dawut, Z-U-M-R-I-T. Bu benim hakkımda çıkılgan kitap. Amazon'da var. Bunu setip edip okusanlar buludu. Google'da mı benim nurgun guvalıklarım var. Tepsili guvalıklara anlamakçı olsanlar Google'dan izlesanlar buludu. Rahmet.
Just like on the ad, literally Google her name, Zumrat Dawut, articles, various platforms she's been on YouTube. You'll see if you want to research more. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.